Hey, everybody, welcome on into Northwoods TCG. Not today, it's not going to be a live rip and chip, but today is going to be a discussion on what's currently happening in the Pokemon market and what's happening with One Piece, guys. As you know, One Piece is going absolutely crazy and is now the time to be dumping your Pokemon investments and jumping into One Piece. That's really the one question that I hear a lot. And a lot of people are trying to make the points that look at how well One Piece is doing. You should jump into that market. You should ditch Pokemon now. Go jump into One Piece. Sell all your Pokemon right now. Go jump into One Piece. And for me, it doesn't make sense. We'll go over that a little bit more as we go on, but welcome on in, everybody. Thank you guys. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe, hit that like, and hit that notify so that we can continue to grow the channel here going into 2026. Hopefully everybody has a Merry Christmas and everybody's having plans for a good new year. I'm going to try and keep the live today at about 1 hour. Reason being is we've got some Christmas stuff we got to get done, and we've got a lot of stuff that's got to get done for the family that I've been procrastinating on, which is what I'm really, really good at sometimes. And I want to take time to do that. But I do want to have the discussion with you guys because I'm seeing a lot of video content right now. A lot of people talking about bailing ship on Pokemon. Now's the time to bail on Pokemon. And look at how far Pokemon's going down. And it's continuing to go down. And this is an issue. And we should really, really, really get into One Piece. But the problem is it's the same people who make the same mistake on investment over and over and over again. And the fact of the matter is that in order to be successful in an investment situation, you need to jump in before the boom. One Piece has already gone up a lot, and it's already up to a point on where, do I think that there's more to go? Yes, I think there's going to be more to go because of the fact that so many people are listening to the advice. They are selling all of their Pokemon stuff. They are shifting their gears and going to One Piece TCG because of the fact that everybody's talking about it. And that's the new thing, right? Pokemon's coming down. We're seeing a deflation in the market. We're not seeing a crash, but we're definitely seeing a correction currently in the Pokemon market. And of course, people don't understand a lot of times when it comes down to investment, that's actually the time that you should be looking at buying in the Pokemon, as long as you believe that the IP is secure. If you honestly sit here and think that Pokemon's going to be around in 10 years, why wouldn't you buy in the Pokemon when it's going down? Why are you only buying into it when it's going up? And that's a real question that people have a hard time answering. And it's because natural fear is that as an investment's going down, you should get out of that investment, right? The natural fear and progression of human nature is that I'm scared because the product is going down or the price is going down on your investment. And that's where you get panic selling. And that's when you get a lot of individuals getting out and getting scared and running away from particular products. That isn't always the case. And normally inside of it, you want to actually be buying into those products because now is the best time to get your best price range. And in a turn, you also a lot of times know where it could go to again. And the chances are is that if we continue in the trends of the Pokemon TCG and what we've seen for the last 15, 20 years is that when you hit a high, it may retract, but it seems to always surpass the previous high, especially in the sealed market. Now, I'm not going to say the same thing about graded cards and singles. I'm going to particularly focus on sealed products at this point in time, just because there are a lot of different things when it comes down to the singles. There's a lot of different things when it comes to grading. There's new dynamics, there's new shifting, and realistically, all of them are very hard to put together sometimes. Singles and graded cards are one of those things that there's always more product coming of those particular items. As long as there's sealed products out there, there's more of those particular cards coming out there. For example, base set Charizard First Edition. Do we know that there's going to be any more sealed product with Charizard First Edition base sets inside of them? No, there's never going to be any more of those coming. We know that. We know that you have a restricted supply at this point in time. Thus, you do know that whatever the supply is out there, and that the supply is going to continue to dwindle as more and more of these packs get open. Same thing with a base set Charizard. I mean, you don't even have to continue with the first edition. You can talk about any of the previous sets in the Pokemon TCG. We know the supply, and we know that the supply is going to dwindle over time. It's going to continue to disappear. Same thing, that's not to be said for the singles and the graded cards. As more of the sealed product gets opened, whether it's base set or first edition or regular, we know more Charizard's cards could hit the market, right? We know more cards could show up in the market, and what's in the market now currently is not all that's available, and it can expand as more product is open. Same thing with graded cards. Are all the Charizard first edition base set Charizards, all graded. There's never going to be another PSA 10 coming into the market. There's never going to be more than a couple more coming into the market. No, we know that there could be several more coming into the market. It just depends on the pulls of the boxes as the products open and as those things shift. So there's definitely these market things that we're looking at when we're talking about what's going on in the hobby and what's going to continue to have gain value is more likely in sealed. So that's why I'm going to focus on this with this discussion today. Now's a good time to maybe be looking at jumping into some of the sealed product. And honestly, it hasn't fallen as far as I kind of thought it would. I thought we would see more of a fall, more of a tumble at this point in time. But realistically, to this point, it's done fairly well and actually kind of stalled again on the way down. Not all of it. Prismatic Evolutions, of course, is continuing to just fall like a stone, and it really hasn't found bottom as more products. I mean, mini tins are coming out. The Tick Sticker 3-packs are coming out. The ETBs are continuing to come out. We're getting Prismatic Evolutions product all over the place, and it just continues to roll out day over day all the time. And that's a big factor when you're looking at whether or not these products are going to stabilize. And when you're looking at Ultra Modern, it's definitely something to consider when you're going forward with it. But let's take a look at, for example, let's just say you go and pull open like an ETB of Destin's Rivals, for example. We thought we would see quite a retraction on these. I was thinking that we might see these things go even sub 100 potentially on some of these products, but there again, no reprint coming, no new stock of the Destin's Rivals Elite Trainer boxes. So thus, it kind of flatlined for a while at about $100, and actually now it's going back up again. So once again, if you're looking at a crash situation, that's not meeting the narrative when it comes down to the actual product side of things. Destin's Rivals booster boxes. Again, I thought we might see a 350 booster box, especially as more of this product rolled out. We've been getting sleeve blisters. We've been getting other products of Destin's Rivals. The check lane blisters and stuff continue to roll out. But there again, Destin's Rivals booster boxes peaked out at about 450. They went down to about 385. I was thinking 350 based on what the market was changing and how it was going about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and we discussed. Now we're looking at it going back up. We're back up to over $400. So we've already seen about a $25 increase on these products. So once again, Pokemon is not handling this it's not very bad. I mean, realistically, we aren't seeing things being hampered very hard by the economy or by the current change in the market and the saturation point of this particular market. Let's take a look at, if we go and take a look at the sleeve blisters. Again, another product. We've been getting tons of them. They're showing up all over the Walmarts, Targets, GameStop, everybody's getting these things. They were even through distribution. I got some through distribution. So Destin's Rivals is definitely rolling back around, and they still have some available in some locations. Once again, it was about $9.85. When we started getting all these reprints, they dropped down to about $7.85 for the sleeve blisters. All of a sudden, again, now we're up over $8, almost $8.25. Again, from high to low, that's not a huge change in variation, it doesn't seem like. But when you're talking about under $10 products, that's a big percentage point that we're going up and down when it comes down to this and recovering already on some of these ultra modern sets. Next one we can take a look at. Let's go back to another one that's a little bit older potentially. Surging Sparks, another one. We've had a lot of ETB reprints. We've had booster box reprints. We've had a lot of other things coming for Surging Sparks. And as I pull this open here real quick, it's taking a moment for my computer to load up. If I go into the sealed products, let's take a look at booster boxes right away. So the booster boxes at one point were about 250. They backed down to about 210, and then they kind of recovered again. And it kind of bounced a couple times. So we were originally at about 235, 240. They went all the way up to about 280, 290 at one point, 300 at one point in time. Then we got that reprint back in October where I even purchased some about $190 from distribution. They dropped back down to about $214. They kind of recovered again up to about 255. But they're still sitting actually about 244. So once again, with a big recovery that everybody's talking about and saying they should be leaving Pokemon, it's really not showing it when we're seeing the actual product lines, even in the ultra modern side, which should be the most affected side when it comes down to the Pokemon products. They should be the one thing that we should see the most fluctuation and potential drop. And it kind of, as the product gets older, it starts to buffer more and more just because there isn't as much available and it's not coming back. Any of these products that I'm talking about right now are all in reprint range. They're not done printing this stuff either. And you would think that a lot of people would be considering that also as potentially an issue that they should be considering. ETB is another one of them products. You know, we sit there and talk about it. You can get them at stores right now for $55 to $60. They're showing up at Walmart. They're showing up at Targets. They're showing up at Best Buys pretty consistently right now. But once again, we saw that initial drop back when we got that reprint of the ETBs back in August, where they were about $110. They dropped all the way down to about 75, and they've just kind of staggered right around that $70 mark since. So once again, we're not seeing very much retraction on the products, as not as much as I thought. Once again, this is one of those products when I keep seeing these ETBs rolling out that I was thinking we would see an MSRP box right here, but we still are not getting there. We're not getting the $55. We're still sitting at about 70, which means we aren't getting a true, what I want to call a true drawback or a true pullback on this products. We're getting kind of just a market correction, and it's very slight. We're not getting a full correction. We're not seeing this ultra modern product fall all the way down the rabbit hole and come all the way back to pricing. And when we're talking about One Piece, everybody's going into One Piece now and showing that as the big change and the one thing that everybody should be going to. But once again, it's all about timing when it comes down to when do you jump into products, right? We talked about this. Why have I not been buying Pokemon products as an investment for the last 8 months? Because of the fact that it just isn't good timing. The market's going up. If you're in the boom and you're in the big rise, that's not the time to jump into these particular products. I mean, I can go into Legacy of the Master. So let's go into those. Let me see. Does it have product on this one? So if I go into TCG Player and we go ahead and take a look at like some of the modern sets right now, everybody's using these as comparisons at how well they're doing and why you should be jumping into One Piece. And we can grab any of these. Once again, ultra modern products. Got to remember, Bandai has a very bad history of reprinting things to death when they start doing well. Does this mean that it's going to happen? They've been pretty good at One Piece at maintaining the not going to grow and not going to go really crazy on the reprints, but it doesn't mean that they won't. And that's a big factor too with Bandai. You just don't know for sure what they're going to do. They are very, very known to be erratic on how they handle things and what they do with them. So if we go ahead and take a look at, One Piece back in November, if you were to jump in on this, even back in October, if you were thinking One Piece was a good investment, you were actually buying One Piece product and thinking, hey, I think this will do well in the future if the IP holds and everything goes good. You'd have been buying them in at about $85 back then. This is Legacy of the Masters. So if we go to that, we're going to be looking at about $85 at that point in time back in October 19th. And I'm looking at the number of sales as well. The funny thing is I like on TCG Player, this is a feature that they've added in a while ago. It's not something new, and maybe not many people really have noticed it. It actually took me a little bit longer than I probably should have to notice it when I was looking at the product lines on that. But the one thing I did notice is that they started putting in the blue bars, and this happened a while ago. And the blue bar, kind of the underhue blue bar on it, is the amount of sales that we are currently getting at that price range. And if you look back at $85, the sales weren't that great. I mean, there was some sales, but it wasn't really heavy sales. They were happening comparatively. There were about 98 sales, 100 sales around that $90 to $95. And then if you sit here and go all the way up to December now, back in about a week ago, when the boom really started, the market really got good on One Piece for investment, we saw about 97 sales still. And the week before that, we saw 345 sales. So we saw a really big peak right there, which is giving you your market gain. And that got us up to about $320 at that point in time. But since then, the sales have actually started to drop down. We've seen less and less sales. So meaning the price went that high, less people are really starting to push that and really starting to see that you're not getting as many sales anymore. So you got that one boom where everybody shifted, but since then it's kind of petered off on the amount of sales. So even like from the 21st to the 23rd, we've only had 62 of these booster boxes sold in those few days. If we go back, you're around 100 prior, and then you had that big boom around 350 of them between the 6th and the 8th. So you had a 3-day window there where we had a lot of items sold. And since then, it's kind of continuing. And the graph is showing it's just dropping off the number of sales at that price, which tells you had a boom, you had a spike, and it's not really going to hold up to that sales. You didn't do a market watch last boom of OP, and we all agreed it was overinflated and the prices needed to come down. Yes, I did. Yes, the first one, when OP first came out, I thought the exact same thing. The thing is that OP is really, really interesting, iFOMO, when it comes down to the performance of the set. Is we see a lot of times where the first real boom was when it was brand new. And I said, you got a lot of people, hype and FOMO really driving it, and it became a really heavy investment set, not really playable by that point in time. And once again, just because you have a big anime IP or a big IP in one area does not mean that your IP is going to be successful in TCGs. We've seen several times where the IP is huge in one section, but not necessarily able to cross over and gain that. Pokemon has it in both. That doesn't mean that everything's going to do that. In One Piece, when it originally came out, OP 1 and 2, I did a video saying back then, is it a good time to jump into One Piece as an investment at this point in time? And my conclusion was that it was overpriced then. And they did. The prices did come down actually quite a bit after that. The blue bottom boxes, no. And I said that in the video, that I think the blue bottom boxes are such a low print rate and there's no more coming. So once again, when you have a limited product, it gives you that opportunity and you get that potential for some really good gains. Anything like One Piece or like any kind of first edition, anything like that, Flesh and Blood first edition sets, even though they're the first and they aren't really performing, maybe great or maybe not performing to like Pokemon standards, they still tend to be limited print, and that gives them a little bit of value when you're talking about that. But One Piece did go up at one point, did come back down. We started seeing some, just consistency. One Piece in general is consistent. I think that it's going to continue to do consistent. But once again, we are seeing another boom in this market. When you start seeing like 350 sales in a 3-day window, I mean, that's a lot of sales comparatively to everything around it, which was about 44. We were 44, 50, 53. Then you go 45, you go 135, you go up to 147. Then you drop down or go to 161, and then bam, you're up to 350. And then right after that, you drop back down to 97. So once again, it's when everybody was talking, and it really creates that boom. Now, who knows how much product is still coming of this? OP12, again, is not a very old set, and Bandai can have a tendency to change that when it comes down to it. He says, iFomo says, yes, but since OP has become more playable than Pokemon, playability dictates the market, and it's not more playable than Pokemon. Not that I've seen yet. No place that I know of is making OP more playable. I know, like we've talked about iFomo, that maybe in like South America and the that area, yes, I know it's more popular down there, but United States market, it's nowhere near Pokemon standards by playability. It's not even in either. I've checked both of my LGSs, so the close by, even all three of them. I checked the one up north. We're not playing it. There's no nights for it even. There's no tournaments. There's nothing going on for One Piece. Two of them don't even sell One Piece yet. They just don't. They aren't getting involved in it yet at this point in time. So that's one of those things. It isn't there yet. Pokemon's got a lot of history. They have a lot of competitive players. They have a lot of things going on in Pokemon that One Piece still doesn't have to this point in time. It may come. I'm not saying it won't. I'm not saying that there isn't an opportunity. I do know it's more popular in Southern, like I said, through like the Panhandle and down into South America, and all that area, Central America, South America. It doesn't have the drive here in Canada and the United States. So tournaments and championships. Yep. And it'll come. I mean, we got to see more growth. I'm just curious. Does One Piece at this point in time, I guess this is where I didn't do my research yet. I'm going to do it right now. Does One Piece actually do a world tournament or a, something like that in order to drive? You mean like at locals? Most people at my locals play MTG, Fab, One Piece, and Yu-Gi-Oh! It's mostly little kids that play Pokemon in my local. See, it's a complete opposite around here. One Piece, they don't do Yu-Gi-Oh! And they don't do One Piece. They do MTG. They are doing pretty consistently MTG, Larkana, Pokemon. What's the other one? There's one other one too I saw the tournaments for as well. So we got Champions 2025, 2026. This is what I'm looking for. So once again, if you guys don't use it, go to Limitless TCG. Limitless TCG is going to be a very good information piece that can sometimes tell you the number of players and those kind of people, that kind of stuff, that kind of information. So I am going up to tournaments. So I'm looking for tournaments, and I'm going to do One Piece tournaments. Once again, I like looking at these kind of things. So last one was OP13. They had championship finals, and they had 900 players at that. 512 pretty consistently, 250, 300. United States is right in the middle of the pack with about 500 to 250. Regional New Orleans was 250. Looking at 900 in San Diego. So San Diego, once again, the Latino communities are really driving that when it comes down to it. Yeah, One Piece has tournaments, but Bandai caps it. Yes, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at all the tournaments. They're all capped at like 1,000. They show a cap. Approximate player count's not available. Or here you go. Cap player count 900. Cap player count 1,000. This one was a treasure cup. Had a 300 cap. Regional had a 900. So looks like most of them are capped at 900. But United States, like I said, it's hit or miss. There's some areas that are really, really hot. Peoria, Illinois had 800, while Pasadena, California had 500, and those weren't capped. They didn't meet the caps. So you can see most of them are capped at 900. The ones that maxed out are 900. A lot of the, like I said, Central America ones are capping out where their lines are for that. So yeah, there is a cap, and they seem to cap their tournaments. But a lot of the United States ones aren't meeting the cap. The only one that did was San Diego. San Diego is the only one that hit the cap when it came down to the amount of players in the One Piece circuit right now that I can see. This is on the tournament filter here for Limitless TCG. So if you guys ever want to know on tournaments and how things are doing, what's happening in a lot of these things, definitely check out the Limitless TCG, because it gives you some really good information on those particular things, and you can get a really good feel for how different things are performing and where the performances are. So if you want to know if there's a playability to something, and if it's doing well, and if it's something that's going to continue to be fairly good, check out Limitless TCG, and you can search it by the actual. So if you put in the name of the thing you're looking for first, it'll actually do like Pokemon, and you can go into each one of the tournaments. You can have fun. So you go Limitless TCG Pokemon. So for example, the Japanese championships right now for Pokemon had 6,500 players. You go through regionals, and Germany had 2,200 players. Las Vegas had 3,000 players. Regional in France had 2,000. Again, championship league in Japan, 6,000 players. Once again, it's hard to tell when they're capping. I just AI chat boxes to do research. I don't know how accurate it is. I'm going by Limitless TCG, so these are the actual tournament numbers. Once again, this is looking at, and you can go into each one of the tournaments and actually see players' decks, what they're using. All of these things are available. So, for example, in Japan, 2,500 players participated in the championships, and the number one deck on there was a Gardevoir Jellicent deck, followed by a Mega Abyssal Mega Kangaskhan deck right behind it. So, and a Crustal deck was number 4. So we're seeing some shifting in this kind of stuff when you're looking at it. But once again, I just use Limitless TCG when I'm looking at how the playability is. But it is deceiving though. One Piece is deceiving because you don't have caps on Pokemon tournaments except for Worlds. Worlds this year was the first year on Worlds that they actually put a cap on the number of participants that could go to Worlds. So that was something that did change. So, for example, they had a cap on Worlds for the number of participants in it. You had to be in the top, I think it was 725 in order to get into Worlds this year. That was the only way to get in. But other than that, Pokemon doesn't have any caps. But there again, the United States ones still aren't hitting the caps when they're showing them. So they're showing like, the one in California at 900. It seems like 900 is the cap. Most of them are all hitting 900 and then they stop. So I'm guessing that is the cap for the tournament entries for those particular spots. A lot of the caps were happening in like Central America. So it just gives you kind of a feel for the TCG community that, once again, like iPhone, when I talked about when One Piece first came out, and when we had this discussion before about the investability of it, definitely Central America is very heavy with it. So if we look at like Brazil and those locations, it seems like those are very, very heavy. They're hitting the caps. Germany hit the caps. Once again, another cap area that we're seeing it max out. Britain, not so much. The regional did in Edinburgh, so it hit the cap. But other than that, a lot of the caps are hitting, like here, Brazil hit the cap. We have Mexico City hit the cap. Looking down here, Treasure Cup and this one looks like it was in Mexico as well, 500 cap. So that one only had a 500 cap. But once again, the caps are getting hit, and then, like I said, San Diego, California is the only place in the United States that actually hit the cap and locked out. So that gives you kind of a feel for what you're looking at and where the playability and where the popularity is. I'm not saying One Piece isn't investable. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is really to take a look at, is One Piece is investable. I think that it's showing itself that there's an opportunity. And personally, I'm really considering some of the risks that are involved with it. I didn't this time around. And I'm not going to sit there and tell you not to invest in the One Piece. I think that there's going to be some growth still in it. I think it's going to do well. It's got a good IP behind it. Is it going to remain a playable TCG that is going to be successful? I can't tell you futuristically on that, of course. I'm not a psychic. But I think that it will do well. It's going to take some time. Once again, Pokemon's got 30 years on it, and it's going to take a long time for that, One Piece to get to that point in time to be knowing. And I can't tell you that far in the future. The point is of this whole video is that a lot of people are leaving Pokemon right now and selling out while the market's going down, thinking that they're leaving because Pokemon's going to fall apart. And the fact is that now should be a time you're buying in the Pokemon, and you should have already been buying in the One Piece. If you're going into One Piece this week and trying to jump in and call it an investment at this point in time, you are already too late. You should have already been here at this point in time and been in position. You should have been buying into One Piece when the market was going down back in November. So we had a peak in November and then it came back down. You should have been buying into One Piece at that point in time if you felt that One Piece was an actual investable set. That's the problem is that I see a lot of times with investment, and the point of this whole live is to sit here and talk about is the fact that a lot of people misinterpret the timing of investment. They think that they should invest while the market's going up. And I understand human nature is to try and get out when things are going bad, right? And the problem is that sometimes works when a fire, that works whenever a building's collapsing, that works when a tsunami's coming. But when you're talking about investments, most of the best investments at this point in time are when the markets are going down. You don't let a good recession go to waste. Warren Buffett's favorite words. And that's absolutely true. So if we're seeing a retraction in the Pokemon market and the bulls stop running and it starts to retract, now's the time to be moving your money into the Pokemon market if you believe Pokemon's going to be successful in the next 5 to 10 years. If you think Destin's Rival is going to be a hot set in 2-3 years and it's going down in value right now, why are you not buying into Destin's Rivals on the down? And instead, you are jumping into One Piece, which is already in a boom, and we've seen huge sales and huge growth. Why are you buying into that this week after the boom's already happened? You've missed the opportunity of that particular investment. You've missed the opportunity for that to do well and get in on it. You should already be shifting back to Pokemon for your investment. You should be selling your One Piece at this point in time. Like we were talking about, we were selling Pokemon 2-3 months ago. Team Rocket Joey and I both talked about that we were selling a bunch of Pokemon and we were pushing a bunch of Pokemon out, but we were not sitting there buying Pokemon at that point in time as investment because we don't buy into booms. You sell into booms and you buy when it goes into a recession or when it goes into a correction. Same thing with One Piece. Same thing with any market at this point in time. You shouldn't be selling your Pokemon products when we're in a correction and jumping into One Piece. You should have already sold your Pokemon stuff and jumped into One Piece when it was booming, not when the boom's already happened. And that's a big issue that I'm seeing is, do I think One Piece will do well? I think it will. I mean, over the last few years since it's come out, we've seen it do fairly well. Some of the sets stay really flat for a long period of time. We know that. I mean, we can go back in history and look at some of them, even the OP12. I mean, it was up at about $200 at release. It dropped all the way down to $185. That's when you should have been buying, when it's dropping down and getting into it. And the fact that people didn't and waited and didn't buy it until it's now going back all the way up in the upward trend, to me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, is it going to go back up to $200 a booster box at this point in time? I don't know. The sales are showing that probably not. And that's where I'm using different resources when you're looking at your investments. Do I think that the current sales trends are showing that One Piece is going to go back up to a $200 booster box for OP12? Probably not, because as this price continues to go way higher, getting up to around that 150 range, the sales are just dropping right down the opposite direction, which tells me that there aren't enough people with interest in buying it at that price. And it's going to get to a point where your sales are going to drop out and it's going to start to come back down due to the fact that you're just not having people buying it. And people are still going to want to move product. You're going to have secondary people that are going to need to make money. They're going to need to make capital, and they're going to do what they need to in order to make that happen. And that's what we're looking at when it comes down to where we are currently right now with One Piece. I'm afraid that right now, if you're buying in today into One Piece, you're making a fatal mistake because the sales are not supporting the fact that it's going to continue to do that. This was unexpected. The OP folk expected this in March next year for the live action release. And yes, I actually kind of thought that that would be a time to kind of build on it. The problem is that I think the biggest issue we have right now with Pokemon is that we have fickle people that are just diving. I mean, once again, people dive when they see the markets change. And when it's not gravy train where I can buy something and sell it in a week and make double my money on it, I don't want to do it. And that's a big issue a lot of times when it comes down to investment. People call themselves investors. People call themselves money connoisseurs that are trying to make money. Honestly, 90% of the people that are in the Pokemon market right now that are claiming to be investors are not investors. They are not. They are strictly money hungry people that are honestly just jumping into whatever's popular to either A, make content to say that they're investing into it, or number two, they're jumping into it with no understanding of what investment is, and they're strictly just a flipper. They're doing short term. They're trying to make money quick. It's a get rich quick scheme. It's not the long term draw out, pull out that we're looking for. And that's what we're seeing. These people are now diving out of Pokemon because they can't make money. They saw One Piece spike like crazy, and then they jump into that thinking that they're going to be able to get on the next boom and catch that one while it's going up. And, I can sit here and let's just look up the latest one, OP13, which is going to be the carrying his will, I believe is what it is. Carrying on his will, that's what it is. I just bought some, so I'm trying to remember what it was called. Carrying on his will. So let's just say we open up a booster box, or see the booster box price of this one in particular as well. And as you can see, it's doing extremely well. But if you look on TCG Player, the spike is almost identical. So if you look at the pricing of it, it was 180 at release. It kind of went down a little bit, down to about 155. Once again, October, November was a great time to buy in the One Piece right now with the current market. And if you look at it, we're seeing it now. We're seeing, again, 639 sales in 3 days, and it spiked all the way up to almost $300 at that point. And then right after it gets up to $300, nobody's buying it anymore. So once again, the booster box is extremely high, but then the sales go from one day being 639. So we built up to it again. Again, same kind of build up. The day before we had 245. We went to 300, and then we jumped up to 320, and then we built up to 330, and then all of a sudden the next day we went up to, when everybody started talking about it, jumped all the way up to 640 booster boxes sold. And then right after that, we go to 338, and then we're down all the way down now to day's sale, or the last couple days, we're at 99. You're under 100 sales. So you went even pre this boom around 200 sales to less than half of that just right after the boom. So that tells me people aren't interested. You're losing interest again in the sales side, which is a big factor to the overall performance of that. So yeah, I think there's going to be a reprint of that set as well. It is really high. Plus it's the current set. They're definitely going to want to get more of that product out there onto the shelves for individuals for sure in order to capitalize on the market, number one. And number two, if they are focusing on the tournament side of things, they need to get these cards out there, and they need to provide that for the players if they want to grow a player base when it comes down to it. So I'm not saying it's not investable. I just don't think it's the right time to jump in the One Piece. I think, once again, you're getting these fickle people that are just 100% chasing money and looking at that short-term investment strategy of, a day trader. Let me jump in because the stock started moving at 10 a.m. and I'm going to sell it by 4 p.m. because the stock went and doubled and I'm getting out the same day. I'm not looking at my investment for 5 years down the road. I'm not looking at this investment 10 years. I'm not looking at long-term investment. I'm only looking for the day or two I want to buy this product off the shelf at Walmart, and I want to be able to bring it home, say, hey, it's got value, and go and sell it for 2 times what I just paid for it, or 3 times what I just paid for it on the store shelf. And these are the people that are giving you investment advice right now that I'm seeing on YouTube all over the place, that you should be jumping. You should sell all your Pokemon investments and move over to One Piece, because Pokemon sucks. It's the worst investment right now that is out there. And it's not. We have a good opportunity right now for a correction in the market. And for me, a correction is a great thing, because for me as an investor, this is what I've been waiting for now. And like I've been telling people for the last 3-4 months, you should have been banking money now, preparing for this correction to maybe get into it. The caveat to that is, I think that this correction is going to be short-lived. And the reason I'm going to say that is, look at the next set, Ascending Heroes. Why are they splitting that up over 5 months? If they have the printing capacity and printers were going and we were able to do that, why are we not getting more product available all at once? Why are we pushing the ETBs out a month past release, and all we're getting is some stupid sticker packs and 3-pack blisters, and not getting the ETBs or the 6-pack bundles or something with substance on the release of that set? Once again, something weird is happening at Pokemon for the printing of these sets and the printability of these sets. And I don't think that we're going to have a long-term drop in Pokemon. I think right now, if you're looking at investments, if you're looking at sets like Temporal Forces, or if you're looking at Paradox Rift, or if you're looking at Paldean Fates, or even Twilight Masquerade or Stellar Crown, now might be a good time to try and get into it, because it has come down a little bit. But I don't think that this is going to be a long-term correction. I'm not seeing it from the product standpoint and the availability of product to really justify a long-term drop in the Pokemon market. Now, I could be wrong, and I will always tell you that this is just my assessment based on what I'm currently seeing. And it could change in a week. Pokemon could deliver, a whole battleship full of Pokemon products someplace, and it could completely throw that out. But once again, it almost feels like Pokemon is intentionally not printing enough. Even if the market dictates that they could, they still are not. And it seems like we got a little bit of a boost for the holiday season. Like we talk about, we get this every holiday season, where all of a sudden we get a ton of different products and a ton of stuff come out. But that ton of stuff really is running out already, and it's starting to disappear on that market. And I think, personally, when I look at graphs and I'm looking at the overall performance of these sets right now, it's showing fairly quickly that these booster boxes and these products are going to recover. Prismatic Evolution is probably the one that I'm the least concerned about a recovery on right now, just because they have absolutely targeted that set for death, and they are going to continue to beat that thing to death. Whether it's the text stickers, whether it's the mini tins, now we got a ton of mini tins out there, whether it's the ETBs, all of these products are just round robin cycling through, and they keep printing more and more and more of them, and they are just dead set on killing that particular set, an unknown reason why. I wish they would move on to something else. I wish they'd move on to more Destin's Rivals. I wish that they would print more Mega Evolutions. I'd love to get some more check lane, or the blisters of those as well, because I always buy blisters for opening. It's fun. They're a little bit more variety in them. Personally, I just don't understand currently why Pokemon is not focusing on getting caught up, and it's pretty evident by Ascending Heroes, in my opinion. And this may be unpopular opinion. Some people may highly disagree with me on this, but I think it's a good sense that Pokemon just is not going to be printing a lot of product to come up, which means that this correction that we're in currently will be very short-lived, because if you don't get more product and we don't keep this down, you're just giving an opportunity with a lot of product in the store to go buy some more and be able to stock this stuff. And if that's the case, it's definitely going to cause the market to go back up here in the near future. What they're printing, why we can't get more product is still kind of interesting to me. I think overall there's some real questions that are going to remain there for a long period of time. I'm not getting any word of any major reprint allocations coming back. I'm not getting word of very much product coming right now from either one of my distributions. I'm hearing slight rumblings that we might be getting some more potential Destined Rivals ETBs, which wouldn't surprise me. Journey Together ETBs as well are kind of rumbling. Once again, it's rumbling. It's nothing confirmed, nothing for sure. It's just what we're kind of hearing in the background right now. Those two might be coming as well, which would make sense if they did. We did get Stellar Crown. We got Twilight Masquerade. We got, Surging Sparks. We're getting Prismatic Evolutions. It would only make sense that we would see Journey Together and Destin's Rivals here in the near future. We're just getting through Surging Sparks, which means Journey Together shouldn't be far behind it if Pokemon continues to kind of push this direction that they are right now with the reprint schedules. And if they stay consistent, I would think we would be seeing Journey Together here in the next month. I would think probably January we'll probably see Journey Together. February to early March will follow right behind it with Destin's Rivals. If I was going to put a guess on it for how they've been doing things right now in the market. So once again, nothing confirmed. I just don't. This is my rant, my feeling, what I'm kind of hearing, talking to like the distribution reps and things like that. Is that that's kind of their feelings as well. Is that the rumblings through distribution is that we will probably be seeing some of those things, but it's nothing confirmed. I can't confirm any of it. It's just hearsay talk and unconfirmed banter on what's actually going on right now. But wow, I talked a long time in the beginning here. So once again, is now the time to be selling your Pokemon products and kicking in the One Piece? No, I think that you're too late for the game. If you're going to do it, you should have done it back in November when Pokemon was still almost at its all-time high. Early November, end of October, even back in September when we were talking about it. Should have been selling in September and October and then bought into One Piece back in like early November and then be selling out of One Piece now and almost be shifting back to Pokemon at this point in time. So these are all considerations when you're looking at investment that you really need to be thinking about. Proper timing to invest into the Pokemon TCG, proper timing to invest into any kind of item, whether it's the stock market, whether it's the property, whether it's anything. Your mindset has to change when it comes down to investment. You can't take the consideration that because something is going down in price, now's the time to sell or get out of it. You should have the mindset is that I'm going to buy into the drop when everything's going down in price. I'm going to follow this down. I'm going to continue to ride the storm because I know at the other end of the storm, there will be sunshine and rainbows, and that's when I'll make my value back. And it may not be 1 year. It may not be 2 years, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I might be making several compound growths, and that's where I'm going to take the advantages and win on that. And that's where you need to be looking at on any of these investments, unless you're strictly in it for the short term. And then, of course, you're going to do exactly what you're doing now, which is jump in, jump out, jump in, jump out. Try and make 5-10% real quick on the boom. Try and get ahead of it as it starts moving up and taking that advantage. But it really doesn't make sense. Once again, I just want to cover on this before I go to the chat a little bit more, that I'm not saying One Piece is not investable. I'm not saying that it's not a futuristically a good investment for One Piece. I'm not an analyst for One Piece. I don't know One Piece that incredibly well. I'm getting better at it now that I'm opening it. Thanks to Arcstrike, he really helped me on the live the other night when we were opening One Piece, explaining the difference on the card rarities and all that, which was fantastic. It was great to know some of the things about it. So I am learning more and more about it, but I am not necessarily a connoisseur or an expert on the investment side of it. The overall strengths and weaknesses of it, I'm not huge on. The only thing that I'm going to point out is that when I start seeing a TCG that has a huge growth and you're telling people to sell your investments in another set, jump over and put money into it when the sales trajectory is not showing that it's going to sustain, is a big mistake. I think that you should hold steady on your Pokemon investments right now. I think that in another 3-4 months, if we continue to get the amount of product that we are right now continue to come out, it's going to do fairly well. We're going to see good corrections. This correction that we see, this downward correction, is going to be short-lived unless something really majorly happens in the printing side of the Pokemon TCG. And I'm still not hearing it. I don't know if any other channels have said anything. I haven't heard Danny Phantom say anything about that. I haven't seen Pokemon USA say anything about that. I have not seen anybody out there right now saying that there's any hint of monster reprints where we're going to be able to order whatever we want out of these things. And as long as that's occurring right now, it's really not going to happen. I know I haven't seen it. I've been watching all those channels because I always try and get information from, especially Danny Phantom. Even Eli's really, really good when he's posting things. Nostalgianomics is pretty good too. I know he's got connections to Eli, so a lot of times when it comes down to reprints and things like that, he posts a lot of stuff that Eli's putting up, but or Pokemon USA. But I think that there's a lot of stuff right now that people are people just are unclear. And if we don't see a correction in the amount of product coming out in the near future, this stuff's going to dry up. It's going to disappear off the shelves. And once it disappears, the Pokemon product and pricing is going to go up a lot. And it's not going to go, this correction is going to be short lived. Ultra Modern should be taking a bigger hit at this point in time with the correction and crash that we're having. And honestly, we're already seeing it kind of correct the other way, especially sets like Destin's Rivals. Journey Together is still slow, but Journey Together just isn't as strong as a set. I'll be the first one to say, I've said that since the beginning, is that Journey Together is one of them sets that it's okay, but it's not a big nail driver like Destin's Rivals is. So Destin's Rivals to me is a good feel for how a good set's going to perform. And Journey Together is kind of a set of how mid-grade, mediocre set's going to perform. But even if we look at like the, let's just pull open a Journey Together booster box right now. It's even coming up again as well. So if we look at the price, TCG player right now is $265. Was in October, and then we had the drop, the crash, the correction, whatever you want to call it. It bottomed out at roughly $220. And now today on TCG Player, we're up to 137 or 237 right now. So once again, upward movement again on the and that's the unenhanced. If we go to the enhanced version of it, once again, the enhanced version is staying pretty flat, but I do know that there was more of those booster boxes came out as well. So that was up at about 265 back in mid-October. It dropped all the way down to about 235 right now, and staying at about 235. So a little bit, about the same price right now as the standard booster box at this point in time. Let's just grab another product, for example, sleeve blisters, another one, because I sell quite a few of them. I always like kind of keeping an eye on sleeve blisters. I'm going to pull these open right now, and since July, even though we've gotten reprints, even though we've gotten more product, all that fun stuff, it has stayed consistently at about $6.80. So really no correction on sleeve blisters whatsoever. Even though we got a reprint, it really didn't change the overall performance of that particular product. Last one we can take a look at, of course, as well, is going to be the standard ETB. We look back at the last 6 months of the standard ETB. Go back to mid-November, it kind of dropped down to about $78, $79, and we're already back up to 83. So once again, we are definitely doing well for this big correction and market drop at this point in time. It really isn't happening. We aren't seeing huge monster corrections, and without a huge monster amount of product coming in the near future, this is definitely something that's not going to be a long-term drop in the Pokemon market. Team Rocket Joey's in the house. I like investing in the celebrations. Celebrations is good too. I personally, as I've said before, and I'm not afraid to say it, it might be the biggest hot take on YouTube, I'm not a fan of celebrations. I think it was I still to this day will tell you, I feel like the set in general was a lazy set that did nothing to bring anything new to anybody except for the promo cards. I think there's 6 promo cards that are new artworks that are different. And other than that, the set itself was a very lazy set. They did very little to it to make it good, to make it a great set like Generations or anything like that. But overall, I think jumping into some of the products, definitely not a bad call. All the products are continuing to go up. Not surprising. As I said, anniversary set. We got another anniversary set coming up. Hold on to your, Lance's Charizard boxes and your Dark Sylveon boxes. Them are continuing to perform fairly well right now as well. I don't have anything bad to say about it. So, for example, the Dark Sylveon box right now, in the last year even, has done extremely well. It was at about $40 in January of 2024. And if we go today, about $101 right now. So for the last year, they've done nothing but go up in price. There again, we're coming into a anniversary, and it makes just perfect sense for it to do well. And we saw the same thing with Generations as Celebrations was coming in, as we were coming into the Celebrations in 2021. So definitely not a bad idea. I still can't believe these little Pikachu figurine collections are finally going up in price as well. Them things sat stagnant for a long time. They finally hit $100 back in January of 2024. And now today they're all the way up to about $180 currently for those VMAX figurine collections, them big boxes that are really hard to save without breaking them or smashing them. The other one too is this Celebrations Prime. I don't know if a lot of people have those. I got these from Amazon when they were on sale. They were roughly about $100, and currently right now they're almost $180. So, and this is all in the last year. So we're seeing good things. Celebrations, I think, is a good. Once again, I think you might be getting a little late on the investment, but I do think it'll still perform really well going into the next year. As we get closer and closer to 30th anniversary, Generations did the same thing. So I think it's a good opportunity to jump in on Celebrations still at this point, and take advantage of that. These Celebrations collector's chests, another product. You could buy a case of these at one point a year ago, or almost a year ago, a couple of years ago. You could buy cases of them for like $30 a piece for a case. I think there's 4 of them in a case. I don't remember. I have to look at my case load. I'm running off of memory. But overall, I mean, you're up to 100, and today they're $125. So if you bought those things at $30 a piece, they are now running up there at about $125 a piece right now at this point in time. So I'd buy the singles for Celebrations. They corrected very nicely. Yes, and I was actually I was just kind of laughing about that because my wife was wondering what I was working on, and I was literally going through. Let's see if I can pull them out here without them exploding all over the place, because now they're all in top loaders. But I was going through all of the Celebrations. So let me pull them out here real quick. So I was going through and making sure that I was checking them all out, but all the Celebrations hollows as well. And a lot of people just put these away and kind of just shoved them into places. I was just pulling them out of my collection boxes because I sat on a whole bunch of these hollows. Even the hollows are now starting to get some really good value at this point in time. Find certain collection boxes with Evolving Skies. Yes, those are really doing well. So, for example, I got one back here. I got a couple of them back here. So if we go back here, I'm trying not to destroy it. So this one here. So the Lance's Charizard box, it's got Evolving Skies and Fusion Strike in it. So these got Evolving Skies and Fusion Strikes inside of these ones here. So that's why I've been kind of holding on to a few of these. Just because I know that they have Evolving Skies and Fusion Strike in them too. So both the Dark Sylveon and the Lance's Charizard boxes that I have back there both have the Evolving Skies in them as well. So you're right. You can look at specific collection boxes as well. Some had different packs. Some had different options in them. The ones with Evolving Skies or Fusion Strike are definitely going to perform fairly well when it comes down to the overall sets. They're definitely going to be a premium over other ones. But there again, a lot of times online, nobody knows. If you're buying these products, some of them may not have those particular boxes in them. So you don't know sometimes what you're exactly buying when you're getting these boxes online, which is part of the reason sometimes it keeps them down. Another example I have of that is going to be like these team-up boxes. So there's these ones, and I've got this one sitting here, which is going to be the Pikachu Zegron boxes. The problem is that they reprinted these 3 times. The price of these online right now, unless you can prove, once again, you'd have to open them in order to get in here and finally get into these and find out. The problem is with these particular boxes or tins is you don't know what the packs are inside here. So some of these have XY evolutions, some of them have team up, some of them have early Sword and Shield packs like base set and Obsidian or Rebels Clash, and also Darkness Ablaze. I was trying to remember the Charizard set there. But yeah, these all vary. So depending on which generation of this you get, when you purchased it, it really makes a difference when it comes down to those. So that's the caveat to those particular ones as well, is that you don't know what's in some of these products until you get them. So if you're shooting for a premium, you're going to have to somehow be able to prove that premium exists in order to be able to sell it for that. So eBay might be a good place to do that and take that advantage at that point in time. Card Hype, welcome on in. Debating on grabbing either a Chilling Rain or Silver Tempest booster box, but they've seemed to go back up pretty quickly this week. Everything in Pokemon is correcting back upward fairly quickly. So we were just talking about that. Card Hype is that this retraction is going to be very short-lived in the Pokemon TCG, just because of the fact that we just did not get the product to really change, to really make a gigantic change in the market. I mean, it slowed it down a little bit, and we did have a correction, and I think there's a lot of things that occurred right there, and we talked about it a few lives ago, is we kind of had a really weird bottleneck. Number one, we had Black Friday coming. We had a new set released with Phantasmal Flames. Mega Evolutions was right there, black and white. We got hit with like 4 sets in like a 6-month period or 7-month period there between Destin's Rivals and between the release of Destin's Rivals and the release of Phantasmal Flames. It was like, bam, we got all those sets all jammed on us in like 6 months, 7 months. So I think people were running out of money. Plain and simple, there's only a certain amount of money that everybody has. And I think we got to a point where it was really like bottlenecking down. Plus, you had Black Friday, you had Christmas coming, you were doing all these gifts. You know, a lot of people were waiting on Christmas bonuses. They were waiting on income to come back. I mean, now people are starting to get their Christmas bonuses. People are starting to get a little extra income. People are really starting to see these things now. And now we're seeing the Pokemon market come back again. So I think it was more a fact that we had so much come out at one time. You were bottlenecked everything so tight at that point. On top of that, you lost so much money because you're trying to keep up with it. And then last but not least, of course, you had holidays coming as well. So you had kind of a trifecta going on. Plus you had Avatar: The Last Airbender release right there. You had Lorcana release a new set there. You had Phantasmal Flames release. So you really had a lot of stuff. And I think it almost created almost a false drop or a false correction in the market, because realistically the product availability did not justify that correction. And still at this point, it isn't quite justifying the correction at this point in time. And I think that's why we're starting to see recoveries all of a sudden. People are getting their Christmas bonuses. People are getting Christmas money. People are getting a little bit more expendable income again. And that's definitely an opportunity for people to spend money on, like you're talking about, jumping into, Silver Tempest or a Chilling Reign booster box, because we can go ahead and jump in. $419 right now for a Chilling Reign booster box. And if we take a look at it, it's kind of flatlined at about $420 right now on TCG Player. Looks like there's been some recent sales on eBay around $400. So you can get a little bit of a discount at about $400 on eBay right now. There's been 405, 400, 405, 401, 404, 410 is where it went to. There's one for 355, 355. So might be some opportunities there to jump in on it on those particular areas as well. Taking advantage of sometimes the auctions and getting advantage of those. So yeah, I don't think this is going to be a long term. I think this is going to be a very short-lived issue when it comes down to a correction, unless we see a massive dumping in product. And Ascended Heroes is kind of showing that they're not capable of doing that. All right, FOMO, thank you so much for joining with us tonight. Greatly appreciated. Dragonfly says, is there data at what age do collectors usually cash out? Could you see massive Pokemon and MTG boomers cashing out in 2030? I don't think so. I don't think there's any data right now on that, because this whole holding product and investment is really fairly new in the last, it's always occurred. I always hate when people say that it's only been here since 2016. Realistically, it got huge in 2020. It did. It got bigger because a lot of millennials had more money at that point in time. But I don't think there's any data out there that really when people cash out. If you ask me personally, I have no intention of cashing out at this point in time. I don't foresee cashing out. I mean, I might cash out on like Evolving Skies eventually when it hits, like $10,000 a booster box, because I just don't feel that it's going to have very much movement at that point in time. And the question is how much opportunity cost do I want to give up on a product that may move very slowly, compared to taking that $10,000 and putting it into more opportunity growths that are potentially going to be out there at that point in time. That's going to be really the cash out points, I think, for a lot of boomers. Is at what point do we feel, I don't want to say boomers, but millennials, and the when we cash out at that point in time is really going to come down to how do we feel and that's the investment mindset, right? Do we feel like this is going to give us more money, or are we going to have an opportunity to sell this now and go put it into something else? And I think that's when you're going to see maybe even Evolving Skies kind of lose some value, is when a bunch of us finally get to a point where it's like, this thing's going to gain 0.5% to 3% per year. I could go buy, ultra super duper Charizard flashy set for, I can buy almost 1,000 of these things for the price I'm getting for one booster box, and they have a potential going up 30 to 40% in the next every year for the next few years, you're probably going to move on to that at that point in time. If you're truly into investment and you're looking at that point of the investment, unless you're using them as a pillar or you're using them as bragging status on your investment, at some point in time, you're going to cut bait with them when you feel that they're just not going to perform any longer. And that's when you're going to see the real cash out, I believe, at that point in time. I saw Ken Golden and Logan Paul on Big News Cable hyping up collectibles. They are cooked. I think people are done listening to Logan Paul and all of that, in my opinion, at this point in time. I don't think he can affect the market enough. I think people are just done with hearing his name, and I think a lot of collectors and people are here now because they enjoy it, and I think that that's going to continue to be the factor. You're going to have to find a new, if you're going to have a growth where some influencer is going to be able to affect this market or change the trajectory of this market, it's going to have to be someone that brings new blood into it, someone that's never been in Pokemon or maybe has a slight taste of it and never really went full into it. And that person or influencer would have to have enough new people behind them to really flood this market at this point in time where it could cause an issue. But I don't think that Logan Paul is going to do enough to this market at this point in time. You could tell even in 2021, he had lost. 2020, he was huge, had a big influence. All of his people came in. It created a big boom. But in 2021, 2022, people were losing interest in him in the hobby. I mean, everybody had moved on past him. He was no longer the number one reason why they're in this hobby if they were still here. Let's see. Gonna go down the list here. Mega Rayquaza EX from Celebrations is looking. Yes. I still, the problem is that I just don't like Celebrations. It's a lazy set. That's my only only caveat to Celebrations. And I know some people are really gonna hate me on that, and it's okay. I understand it. Celebrations to me was a very lazy set. They did nothing. They literally took old cards and stuck a Pikachu head on it. That's it. That's all that they did. So if I go here and let's just say I take this, I'm just curious. So if I go to that Mega Rayquaza EX right now, okay, so I'm going to use it. Mega Rayquaza EX right here, right now. You can buy the Celebrations version of it, and that card's been reproduced so many times it's stupid. But let's just say that you go ahead and let's just, hypothetically, let's do this for everybody that's in the chat right now. If you had to think the Celebrations Rayquaza, so if I pull this open, let me see if I can do this without giving the price away. I'll give you the price of the Mega from the actual Celebration set right now. It is roughly $29, $29 to $31 currently for the Mega Rayquaza EX from the Celebrations with the Pikachu head on it. What do you think the original one costs? Right now in the chat, put it in there. What do you think the original one of those cards costs without the Pikachu head on it, buying the actual card that it replicated? If you had to put a number on it right now, and then the one that's got right now with Celebrations is around $30. What do you think that the actual exact card is? And this is my point on why these Celebration cards are probably not going to perform as well as people would like. Yeah, somebody's in the chat. It is actually currently going right now. So if you wanted to buy the original one on TCG Player, on eBay right now, they're going for $35. On Card Market right now, they're $45. And on TCG Player, they are $48. So if you're going to sit there and spend money on this card and get the card, why wouldn't you buy the original one for literally $15 to $20 more? I'm going to buy the original one. I'm not even going to bother with the Celebrations. I don't want the Pikachu head on it. I don't want that. If you're not, why would you, like I said, why would you buy the Pikachu head on your card when you can go buy the original one for just about the same price? Another one you're running into as well is going to be, let's just, as dumb as this sounds, I know somebody's going to go out there and say that this isn't true. So you go to the Charizard right now. The Charizard's $105 right now for the Celebrations one. If you go buy, so you can sit here and go right down the list of all these cards, and this is where you're going to run into trouble with Celebrations because of the fact that they're reprint sets. You can buy the original one right now for $450 currently. So if you go on and get a original unlimited print, not a first edition, I'm going unlimited because the other one doesn't have first edition. The unlimited print right now, eBay has had sales at about $268. TCG Player is $450. So you're looking at around, just balance it out, let's just say a $400 card. So you can go and pay 4 times $400 and get the actual base set, limitless, unlimited print Charizard. So then the other one you got to look at is now we got to go, okay, this has been printed a few times. So you got to go to Evolutions. The Evolutions Charizard right now is $66 and you get rid of the Pikachu head. Okay, cool. Now let's go to the other set that has it, which is going to be Legendary Collection. And you also got base set 2. So you've got this Charizard so many times. So it gets to a point where it's almost cap locked as well for how much it's got a lock on it for how high it can go. And that's a factor as well when you're looking at some of these reprint sets, such as Celebrations, is why is the Pikachu head the premium? What makes the Pikachu head on the card the premium reason that people are going to want to buy it? And I understand it's an anniversary set, but that's really the only thing that you're going on. And unless you like that Pikachu head on your card, there isn't going to be that value behind it. So that's the case that that you could make on it. So let me pull open the Charizard card. So Legendary Collections one is $430 currently. So about $400 looking at the different ones that are available. And if we go to a base set 2 one, and this is going to be your best card out of there, which is going to be base set 2. Ooh, where's base set 2? There it is. Base set 2. And we go to the Charizard in base set 2. The Charizard in base set 2 is about $280. So why wouldn't you go buy base set 2 one? Why wouldn't you go buy an XY Evolutions one versus the Celebrations one? Unless you're specifically wanting a Celebrations collection, if you're looking at the artwork, why not get rid of the Pikachu head? And it's the same thing. I've looked through several of these over time, and the same conclusion continues to keep coming up every single time, is that the Celebrations ones are going to almost get capped out because you could go get a different version of it without the Pikachu head, without the Celebrations mark on it, and be able to potentially get a better value. I mean, Blastoise is only right now a $12 card, which I find it really hard to believe it's that low. Let me open it up. That seems weird. No, it is. It's only $12. So $12, $10 on eBay, $12. So once again, you're just not seeing the performance on them because there's better options out there without all the stuff on them. I actually thought the Reshiram and the Zekrom would do better, just because of the fact that there was such a limited print of those particular cards in the black and white era. Compared to the demand currently, there just isn't a lot of them, but still, they're not performing that well. You're talking $11 and $15 for those cards, respectively. So I just think there's better options. The pricing's capped because there's better options without the Pikachu head. So if you're truly like that card and you truly want that card for your collection, you're probably not going to take the time and buy a Celebrations one. You're going to go for the original one. The Classic Collection, that's the Classic Collection. If you want to look at the other part of it, which is the Celebrations, what they just call Celebrations, some of the artwork's okay, but once again, the Gold Mew is really going to be your big value in there. And that's going to be the one thing that everybody's going to want, and that's a $45 card currently, even in Celebrations. Price-wise, not seeing a big fluctuation in price either. I thought going into the next generation here, we might see bigger fluctuations, but still early. Time will tell. It's not a time to jump into them. If you're considering it and think that there's an opportunity in them, now would be the time to start buying into those. I'm just not doing it myself. I think that there's better cards. The Gold Mew is probably one that I would buy into just because it's specific to Celebrations. The other one that's actually doing really well right now is the full art Pikachu as well, from the copy with the full display of it. And that's because of a grading problem with that one. So the grading on that's really hard. The actual price of the card is still $2.70. It has not really changed price since June. I've got all the way back to July. Let's look at the 1 year. I mean, the raw has always been about $1, $2, $2.50. So not much fluctuation in these cards yet. But there again, if you're thinking it's an investment, you're looking at it as an investment, now would be the time to jump in on it as we get closer and closer to the announcements. February, We're probably going to start getting some of the announcements that are coming forward for what we're going to see here in the next sets, or for the generation sets. What kind of some of the events and stuff are probably going to get laid out like we did with celebrations. So it'll be really cool to see what we got rolling out. But other than that, guys, thank you everybody for joining in. Like I said, thank you so much for coming in so close to Christmas. It's greatly appreciated. We will be doing a live stream, it sounds like tomorrow night, for Christmas Eve. We'll be doing 10% off of everything at NorthwoodsCCG.com. So if you want to take advantage of that, still looking for some gifts and some products for yourself here for Christmas, take advantage of that. So that's NorthwoodsCCG.com. It's got a bunch of Pokemon. It's going to also be on One Piece. We got some Magic the Gathering. We have Lorcana. We have a lot of other sets as well in there. So take advantage of that if you want to check it out. We're doing some testers right now on some of the other products to see how they perform and to see if they're worth purchasing more of them here in the near future. But other than that, guys, thank you everybody for joining in. Greatly appreciate it. I still went overtime even though I was trying to keep it an hour. But thank you so much for everybody that's come in this evening and joined us. Joseph, I missed you. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And just make sure I got everybody in the chat as well. I try to always acknowledge everybody that's in here. But other than that, thank you everybody for joining. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic Christmas. If I don't see you before then, have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's for everybody out there in the holiday season. We hope to see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.